This is your host, Conquer the Gauntlet Pro, Evan Perperis. Before we get into today's episode, we have another giveaway brought to you by our friends at Mudgear. If you know Conquer the Gauntlet Pro team, if you know OCR, you know we love Mudgear socks. Such a great product. We're going to play this quick announcement, and then I'll tell you how you can win your free pair of Mudgear socks.
Hey guys, it's Spartan Pro Team member Ryan Kent. You may know me on social as Drop the Hammer or any of the many man bun nicknames that have been thrown my way, but one of the coolest names I get to hear is when my nieces call me Uncle Ryan. Those cuties, along with my sisters, my mom, and of course my girl Sarah, mean the world to me. That's why Breast Cancer Awareness Month is more than a mantra. Early detection saves lives. So to help spread the word, I'm rocking Mudgear's pink compressions for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Of course they're styling all year long, but if you buy yours in October from mudgear.com, 100% of the profit goes to the National Breast Cancer Foundation. So think pink in October and get yours at mudgear.com.
So if you want to win your free pair of Mudgear socks, what you're going to want to do is share this podcast post that's on Facebook and tag Mudgear. So again, share this Facebook post about this podcast and tag Mudgear. So you got to use the @ symbol, type Mudgear, it'll show up, you click OK. And then also set your settings to public. And that'll allow me to see it so I can enter your name into the drawing. If you have it set to private, I won't be able to see the actual tag. All right? Let's get to today's episode. Welcome back to the Strength and Speed Podcast. I'm your host, Strength and Speed owner, Evan Perperis. I am back for another episode, and I have the same co-host I had last time, Leah Hensley. Leah, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
We are recording this 2 weeks before World's Toughest Mudder, so we wanted to do a World's Toughest Mudder preview / talk about / hype type episode. So that's what we have going on. But before we do that, quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by Atomik Climbing Holds. Atomik Climbing Holds makes essentially ninja training gear, so rig grips and balance stuff and pegboard receivers and all sorts of good stuff like that. So if you ever worked out in a ninja gym and have hung from the little rigs they have going across the ceiling or climbed on their rock climbing wall, you've probably used Atomik Climbing Holds. They are super awesome, and they are also who I am representing with my teammate Wesley Kerr at this year's World's Toughest Mudder. So we are Team Atomik, and we will be representing them at World's Toughest Mudder for the classic team division. Speaking of representing companies, last year Wesley and I represented Merrell, and I do have one of the Merrell athletes on the line with me. So on the line I have Kris Mendoza. So Kris, welcome to the show.
What's going on, guys? It's the hype machine, World's Toughest Mudder hype machine. Let's do this.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go.
And for those of you who are deep in the World's Toughest Mudder community, I'm sure you know Kris, but for those of you who are maybe outside that community, I'm going to give you a quick rundown of some of the highlights from his bio.
Don't read them all.
Yeah, but
It's a lengthy bio.
So
I just sent you everything I had, so, don't read all that.
No worries. But what I do want to highlight is some of the stuff because we're going to talk about it. So 2014 was his first World's Toughest Mudder, his first competitive OCR, got 50 miles, came back the next year, got 80 miles in 8th place, and then in 2016, 3rd place with 100 miles, and then did the team relay last year. Regular top finisher at Toughest Mudders, the 8-hour ones, so typically gets 40 to 45 miles, usually finishing anywhere between 1st and 8th. And then on top of that, it's done some ultra marathon running and done some tougher mudder competitions. So also has a sick rap game if you follow.
That's debatable. Very debatable.
Oh, I don't know about that.
I don't know if sick's the right word. It's pretty bad. Pretty horrible.
Well, it is great to have you on the show, Kris. I like to think of you as the people's champion because you always have these great performances at Toughest Mudder and World's Toughest Mudder, but I remember the first year they aired it on CBS, you came in 3rd and you got no airtime, and I was upset, and I wasn't even the one in 3rd. I was like, what? You didn't cover the 3rd place guy? This is BS. And I think I think I commented or messaged you, and you're like, it is what it is. But
Yeah. Oh no, it was an interesting. Yeah, like running 100 miles and getting third, and then like.
No biggie.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, to be honest though, it was like they were super highlighting Austin and Trevor like going at it because they were so close, and I wasn't like right next to them. I ended up like reaching, Austin's mileage just because he pretty much passed out on the course, but it's all good.
Nice. So let's kind of, before we got a lot of world's toughest questions, and we'll do a little bit of predictions and previews coming up. But before we get to that, so how did you get started in OCR, and why was World's Toughest Mudder your first competitive OCR in 2014?
Yeah, so just one of my buddies who's actually going to be out there crewing for his first time at World's Toughest this year, he just pretty much told me about this, stupid event where you like do obstacles and get shocked by stuff. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty dumb, and I don't really like running, so that sounds. But the obstacles sounded fun. The running didn't sound fun at all. And we both decided that we were just going to go try one. We were living different sides of the state, so I ended up doing one in SoCal. He did one in Northern California, and it was a lot of fun. It wasn't anything that was like, wow, I need to keep doing this. But I mean, like, I ran with a couple friends, and we had a great time. And then to kind of answer your question about World's Toughest Mudder, I heard about it, this like insanely stupid event. I don't know. I'm kind of like an all or nothing kind of person. So I was like, 24 hours, like that sounds impossible. And I just wanted to try it. I'm like, why not? And the first 2014, they came to Vegas, and I was like, well, I can drive to this. Like, there's no excuse, Kris. You can do this. So, I didn't know anyone from the Tough Mudder community. I actually ended up going with my parents crewing me, showed up, had a tent, had a wetsuit, and pretty much normal, running clothes. I didn't know anything about OCR. I barely knew anything about running. I mean, compared to now, I knew nothing. And I was just kind of like that ordinary guy who just, I played, yeah.
What kind of events had you done? I mean, had you done anything longer than just a standard Tough Mudder at this point?
So actually, about a month before, my mom was like, hey, you should probably, run something further, recently. And I'm like, okay. So she's like, you should try to run a marathon. So I ended up running a marathon the October before that November World's Toughest Mudder, which wasn't like a super long event, but that was like the only thing I had done. And it was completely flat, obviously no obstacles. So that was like my first kind of experience into any endurance running. And then I kind of just made the jump. Like I said, all or nothing kind of person. So I just, we'll do it live.
Yeah.
We'll do it live.
So you get 50 miles in 2014, and a lot of times people will get the brown bib, right? And the next year they'll be like, well, I'm going to get the silver bib. And it's like, well, that's like a 50% increase on top of what you've already done. So that's not really a realistic goal. But then you seem to have defied my logic there and went from 50 miles in 2014 to 80 miles in 2015. So, like, what happened over that year, and how did you make such a large jump?
Yeah, I think something I had going for me is my disdain and my just hatred to run prior to 2014. So I really didn't have any running background at all. So I think that those huge jumps, it was just because I actually started to train and started to actually run. I'd played some sports growing up, like volleyball, and actually water skied for a little bit, but there was never anything like, a structured run training or anything like that. So I honestly, I guess I have that going for me where it's like I could see huge gains in that first year of really training. And it wasn't anything super structured. It was just kind of what I would hear people doing and just kind of just go out and start running. So, yeah, pretty big jump.
Yeah, that's very impressive jump there from 50 to 80. Yeah, impressive.
Yeah. I mean, I just kind of looked around at what people were doing, and it's just as far as how many miles you should be putting in, or like doing hill intervals. I remember that was like a big jump. Well, especially from 15 to 16. It was, 15 to 16 was probably when I got a little more structured, but just putting in a solid year of actually being committed to like 4 to 5 days a week of, doing some physical activity was huge. So.
Right. And then, so again, then 15 to 16, you make another leap of 20 miles, which again is not, you're talking about a 25% performance increase again, which is, again, like insane. So what did you do between 15 and 16 that made you jump so big?
Yeah, so after 2015, I was like super stoked and kind of knew I wanted to do it again. I would say after 2014, for about a month, I was like, hell no, never doing that event again. That was stupid because, it was going to be just like a one-time thing. And then after a while, I kind of got that itch to like, race again. And I ended up doing some Spartans and stuff. And so that kind of propelled me into 2015. But then into 2016, I already knew like I'm coming back. I'm going to go for it. And I think a big thing was a couple things is I already had that year of, building that somewhat of a base. And I had met more people who kind of knew how to properly train. And so I started to really, my training's never been structured, but in my mind I was, trying to actually do some traditional training, a lot of hill intervals, and just go out for longer runs, every like month or so, like about 30 miles or so. And just getting all that time on feet was huge. And the other thing I actually did, which I just kind of remembered, is I actually went to Rich Diaz's, like I just went to his secret lab, quote unquote, and actually like learned how to run better. Because up to that point I had like zero run training. I've never run cross country, never did track, didn't know how to run properly. Heard about this guy and knew that if I wanted to get better, I needed to, fix my mechanics, become more efficient, become a better runner. And, that mixed with the ideal conditions of that year, I think kind of all just meshed together and helped me, jump up to that 100-mile mark.
What about obstacle training and obstacle proficiency? Is that something that, without having that background, did you struggle with at first, or were things just natural for you?
Yeah, I mean, I will say, I think water skiing kind of helps with some of that grip strength because I did slalom skiing, so, you're holding on to the rope. So I had some grip strength, but, as far as, like, working on bars and, like, hanging from stuff, I didn't have really any other, like, background in that. So I would just do, at that time, my training still wasn't that great. And I was just doing a lot of pull-ups, not even, like, a lot of hanging or anything like that. And to be honest, like, I did fail quite a bit, probably like 2 obstacles a lap. But I think that year the penalties weren't that bad, so I kind of got lucky in that respect.
There you go, Evan. There's another sport to draw from. I don't think we've had a water skier before.
No, I've not. And actually, I've talked with Jarrett Newby, the owner of Noob Sanity, when I was doing OCR America back in 2016 about grip strength training. And one of the things he said was he was looking towards water skiers to try to pull some of their lessons learned to apply it to obstacle course racing, specifically due to the grip strength and the grip endurance that you guys have for, skiing around.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because it's, like, I competitively skied for a couple of years, but, like, nothing too serious. It was just, like, a club sport in college, so I kind of just did it. And I grew up doing that, so, I mean, I never even thought about it until recently that might have actually helped, because the last time I got behind a boat, I realized it was pretty easy for me, and a lot of people struggle just holding on, so.
So when you do water ski training, how long are you holding on to the rope for?
So, I mean, yeah, it just depends. Like, if I'm just free skiing behind a boat, like, for fun, like, you can have, like, a 10 to 20-minute run where you're just kind of holding on. But if you're competing, you're not holding on for a lot at any one time because you're just doing, like, one pass through, which is probably 30 seconds to a minute. But you're making, like, these really aggressive cuts and, like, putting a lot of force on your arms. So if you've ever watched a water skier, they kind of put one arm out and then they try to get their shoulder pretty low to the water. I'm not that great, but I mean, I'm not like the kind of person who my shoulder's going to be touching the water, but, you know, I can extend my arm out and then you get a really aggressive pull that way. And then you do that multiple times throughout a day. So, I mean, you probably have a lot of time under tension and throughout the whole day of training.
Any additional work you put in besides actual practice, like sport-specific practice for water skiing, specifically for your grip, back when you were doing water skiing?
No, not really. I mean, I would just kind of just try to maintain general fitness, do pull-ups, stuff like that. But I wasn't, like, super serious into it to where it was, like, something I was training for.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, I mean, I feel like now with OCR, it's, like, probably the most serious training I've actually ever done, like, at this point in my life, which is kind of funny. Usually it's like you start off younger, having, like, all these structured programs, and now I feel like I'm actually putting in the real work.
Yeah.
So what's a week of training look like for you now?
Yeah, I mean, so I actually just moved out here to Colorado in the beginning of July. So I'm super lucky. I have a ton of trails. None of them are flat. And I don't think I've ran more than a mile on the road since I've been here. So in a typical week, I'll probably go running on a trail, I would say 5 to 6 times a week, 5 to 6 runs. And then I'll try to get in probably 2 like gym sessions where I'm doing like intervals, kind of like if you've ever seen a Yancey camp workout, something like similar to that. Mm-hmm. And then usually there's actually a rock climbing gym that I just joined. So everyone's rock climbing now. So I thought I might as well try it out. And so I probably rock climb a couple times a week too. So, yeah, that's kind of like basis of what I did. And actually it's funny, Evan, that you were mentioning the Atomik holds because I just got back from a ninja gym. I've never been to it here, but there's a ton of ninja gyms around here, so I was just kind of playing around this afternoon.
Yeah, I saw a video you just posted of, I guess, you sliding across some sort of zip line thing.
Oh, yeah. Actually, Nick Ullman was there, too.
Was he?
Yeah, he just moved here like 2 weeks ago. I was like, hey, do you want to go hang out at the ninja gyms?
Did he stop, like, being a homeless person traveling around the country? Is he done?
Yeah. No, he's done with that. He actually has a home.
Oh, exciting.
And pro tip, if you're going to go to a ninja gym and you're an adult, do not go by yourself because everyone else there are little kids at birthday parties. So you're going to look really creepy if you're by yourself. So at least if you have another adult that you're, like, doing stuff with, not so creepy. So pro tip, everyone, do not go to the gym by yourself unless you want to be considered a pedophile.
I will say it does depend on the gym. So
it does.
Yeah,
it does.
So, like, I know the one I just went to a couple weeks ago in Indianapolis, Train Yard, I can't remember the number, 317 or 817. I can't remember the number. But that Indianapolis area code is, like, specifically built for adults. Like, everything is, like, adult-sized. But I have been to other ones that were definitely more children-oriented. And it's like, it's a little weird. You're like, I'm here to work out.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one down here in Atlanta that I go to, it's actually Ryan Stratus's gym from American Ninja Warrior. So there's a whole kids section on one end, and then the adult section is like the majority of the actual gym. But then there's like these amazing badass kids that come and take over things and then like make me look stupid. So I'm like, well, I'm just gonna go when it's adult playtime and not get shown up by kids.
Yeah, they're amazing. They make me feel horrible about myself. It's like I have one of the staff people come talk to me, like, you know, just asking what I'm doing, what I'm training for, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I'm competing for, like in my mind, like this badass 24-hour race. But I'm like, yeah, but these kids are crushing me on these stupid little ninja obstacles. I'm like, this is embarrassing.
Like,
I feel you.
Yeah.
You're like, yeah, I'm one of the best ultra-distance OCR athletes in the U.S. right now. This little kid's beating me pretty good. So
exactly. You
like,
gotta be humbled sometimes.
It's like, did you see the CBS thing? Yeah, I was on that. But this kid's just putting me to shame. So
yeah. They weigh like 2 pounds. That's my justification.
Yeah, and he's not even legal to compete on the show yet. Great.
Awesome. So I noticed, kind of reading through your bio, heavy on the Tough Mudder. So why? And you did say you've done some Spartans. So why Tough Mudder over other brands, or what keeps you coming back?
Yeah, I mean, well, so I have done a few like Ultra Beasts, Spartans. I've actually done a lot of Spartans. I just don't think I've done as well in them. And as I've kind of transitioned, throughout the last few years, I've realized that I am a lot better at the longer stuff. And I think I just have more opportunity with the toughest mudders to, run longer. So, I mean, that's kind of one reason I've started to do more toughest. I am super interested in doing a few more like Ultra Beasts and things like that. But I guess the initial thing that really got me is not only World's Toughest Mudder was like my first real race, and it was kind of like, wow, this is insane, this is awesome. But just for me, I really like the community aspect and like the, everyone helping each other out, because the races are that long that I'm usually competing in. And I think there's definitely like a time and place for like the Spartan, style, just go everyone for themselves and like grind it out. But I'm also not a huge fan of the heavy carries, and I think that's where I die on a lot of the Spartan races. But I mean, for me, Tough Mudder's just been great, and since they've added the 8-hour series, it's like I only have so much time or so many races I can race, and so it kind of just ended up the last couple of years have been mostly Tough Mudder. So,
gotcha. Good answer. Yeah, I started doing some of the math on I make up a lot of my ground in the second half of the toughest and world's toughest by completing obstacles that I think other people are having trouble. And I started doing the math for like an Ultra Beast on how many obstacles someone would like fail, and there's just not as many per mile, and the race isn't as long. Right. So I've been like kind of hesitant to invest essentially to go run an Ultra Beast recently. So
yeah, I mean, and to be honest, like I really am looking at just kind of seeing what the schedule's looking like next year. I think the Spartan Mountain Series looks like it could be a lot of fun, just because I love running in the mountains. So
I'm also not very good on mountains either. So
oh yeah, that's what I like. So
well, yeah, I mean, definitely living in Colorado, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not necessarily that I'm like consider myself great at them. I just like enjoy running up and down and being in the mountains. So, I mean, and that's a huge reason. I kind of like, I've ran a few ultra marathons this year, and it was kind of two parts, like one to like for training for these longer races that I'm doing. And two, pretty much everywhere I ran, it was like a beautiful location. So I just like love running through the mountains, running through nature. That's kind of why I started to enjoy trail running. I'm not like a huge fan of like marathons or, running on the road like some people are. So.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So you mentioned him earlier, Nicholas Amond. Last year did I think it was a 200-mile run. And I know guys like Tyler Nash, who also a top 10 toughest mudder finisher, just finished the Moab 240. And Trevor Psychos, previous world's toughest mudder champion, finished some crazy 200-ish, I think, plus mile race in the UK. Are we going to see you do something crazy like that, like a 200-mile race? Or does that interest you at all, or is that like, nah, I'll stick with the ultra OCR?
Yeah, I mean, so to be honest, nothing like those races don't really appeal to me right now. I will say the races that I do have on my radar that are like long running races, like I would love to run Western States one year, which is the oldest ultra 100-miler in America. Hard Rock, which is considered like one of the hardest 100-milers in America, is another race that I'm like interested in. But these are all things that I kind of have on the back burner. I really want to do, focus on OCR for now, just because that's kind of what I'm good at. But if we're talking about like super long races, I don't know if how much like you follow the ultra marathon community, but Big's Backyard Ultra just happened last weekend.
I just saw something about that one.
Oh man, and that is a super long race that appeals to me. Do you guys know anything about this race?
No, I literally like a couple days ago just saw something about it, but it was the first time I had seen it.
So it's the same guy who does the Barkley Marathons who puts that on. And what it is, it's a 4.1666 mile loop, and you have an hour to complete it. And at the top of every hour, or what pretty much at once, every hour you have to be at the start line, and then he blows a horn or whatever, and then you go off for your another 4.1666 mile loop. And either you're too slow and don't make it back in time, or if for any reason you fall asleep before, because you can make it back in 40 minutes or 30 minutes, and that's going to give you time to rest and recover and eat or do whatever you have to. But you have to be at the start line that next hour. And the format is last man standing. So, yeah. So it's just a battle of wills by the end. I think the winner this year was 270-something miles. And it was between this guy from Sweden and this really badass ultramarathon runner, Courtney Dualter, who won Western States this year. And actually outright won Moab last year. But
yes, I heard a podcast with her. Super impressive.
Yeah, and she's awesome. She's just so inspiring what she's doing. And but just that race format where you don't have to be fast. You just have to have the will to do it. I don't know if I'd ever considered going that far, but I like that idea. Because he set it up the race to where you don't have to be fast to win. You just have to be willing to put yourself through.
Consistent and grind.
All that, yeah. So it's definitely a mental test, which that one intrigues me more than a lot of the other ones do. So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds awful. In a good way and a bad way.
Yeah. I'm about to say, what are you talking about, Mr. Treadmill for 2 days and ultra-ocr for 3 days? I could totally see you rocking that out too.
I got some other plans ahead before I do something like that. So.
That wouldn't be near as crazy, I'm sure.
I don't know. It's the part that appeals is you don't have to be that fast to even be considered the winner, or you just have to because a little over 4 miles an hour, that's super doable. Okay, anyone could do that, but to keep doing it
for how long, right?
And then that's the thing is you don't know when the race is going to end, because it's just whoever's you're against how long they can go for. So I don't know. It's just an intriguing race. Not something I plan on doing in the next couple of years, but it's just, when you're talking about those crazy races, that's one that actually does interest me.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
I actually think when you get to 200-mile races, to me it's a different sport. It's essentially trekking. You're not you're not running the majority of that. At least
no,
I don't think anyone is.
I don't know. I was following Tyler Nash's splits at the Moab 240, and I was like, dude, I could walk this. But I obviously knew that he was, climbing a lot, and he was out there for who knows how long.
Right.
Days.
Literally days, yeah.
Yeah.
So
it's insane.
To me, that's, again, Evan's personal opinion, but it's no longer ultra running. It's trekking. It's it's almost it's a different sport in my opinion, but just my 2 cents. Still very impressive. Absolutely. Putting out that much mileage, is just very impressive, both physically and mentally.
Yeah. So. And to do that though, it's you ruin the next 3 months.
Right. The recovery from something like that.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, there's there's not a race that appeals to me that much where I'm okay, I want to take off the next, pretty much 6 months until I am probably going to be ready to run again, competitively, seriously. I don't know. Yeah. Everyone's different, but that just seems like a lot.
Yeah. Well, that's why World's Toughest Mudder is my last race of the season, because I destroy myself. I get sick every year afterwards. Every year.
Me too. Yep.
What's your recovery like for you, Kris, from something like World's Toughest?
Yep. Always sick right after. Actually, it usually takes a half a week to a week, and then I'm sick. Last year was probably my best recovery, but I also did the team relay, so I didn't run as many miles. I give myself until, I tell myself, I don't even, if I don't want to run, I'm not going to do anything until, January 1st. I have no pressure than all of December. It's if I want to go do something, I'll do it, but I don't even worry about training or anything.
Yeah. I'm the same. I go to the gym in December just because I enjoy it, but
exactly.
I stop running. So
yeah. Although I did sign up for 100K at the beginning of February, so I might have to start running in January at least to get a couple months or a month in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll be fine for that. That's no problem for you.
It'll be fine.
No big deal.
Yeah, I mean, like,
100K.
No, it's only 100K. Yeah,
It's only 100K, all right.
Yeah, it's fine.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about some of your skills, which include rapping. So where did this rapping come from? And, just give me some background on that.
You also forgot my drawing skills, my computer hacking skills.
And your bow staff skills?
Yes, exactly. Yes, got my rapping skills. I don't have rapping skills. I don't know if you guys obviously know, but this guy Keith Allen, he just makes these stupid rap videos that are really funny. And so I was just like decided, I was like, hey, like we should make one. But then I was like, well, I'm just gonna make one based on one of his like tunes that he did. And I just started, I don't know, just like spitting game. I've never rapped. I don't even really like hip hop that much, so I don't even know where that came from. But pretty much I just like talking trash to him and Maddie Gregg. So, I mean, that's just the basis for all of it, really.
Well, I have to say that the rap battle posts in the World's Toughest community, for those who don't know, it's a banter back and forth between mostly Keith Allen and Kris. And they will come up with off-the-wall just raps towards one another, just talking crap. And they are, without a doubt, my favorite posts in the community.
Yeah, I'm debating if I want to come up with one before World's Toughest, like while I'm tapering, to like keep me occupied, or if I'm just going to wait till after. I don't know. Probably after, like once we actually go through it, might be more entertaining.
Or both.
So how many times on course do people sing your name to you as a result of Keith's?
Oh, gosh. I mean, I would say I hear it at least 2 to 3 times a lap.
You almost can't say Kris Mendoza without applying the tune to it.
Well, and that's the problem is no one calls me like by Kris or anything. Like they all say my full name now, and they think. And I actually had one of my friends like say like, should I start calling you Christopher? And she's not in the OCR community because she heard that tune, and she has no idea what it's from. And I'm like, good Lord. And honestly, like it's so funny now. I mean, like I get some people that are like, you're probably tired of hearing it. Like at the end of Toughest West, they're like, you're probably tired of hearing it. I'm like, no, I need something to keep me going. But no, it's all in good fun. Although I will say that Keith probably won the rap battle because he somehow came up with the jingle that everyone likes to sing as an encore. So it haunts me forever. Yeah,
they are very. Yeah, go.
I was gonna say we do have something. We'll have something coming up in the pipeline within the next month. So don't you all worry.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, the rapping is very funny. Definitely keeps things light, and you also keep things light on the course sometimes. And I'm not sure if you're the first person to do it, but you're the first person I remember doing it. Was showing up to like I think it was Toughest Mudder, like wearing a onesie. Like the it was like a Cookie Monster outfit or something.
Yeah, for sure the Cookie Monster onesie. Yes.
So where did that come from? Also, yeah. Give me the background.
I cannot take any credit for that. That is all Joel Forsyth.
Okay.
I think you know Joel. He has a Tigger one, and his sister when she crews at World's Toughest, she wears it usually. But no, he had it, and I was like, dude, I need to get one. We need to rep this hard. And it was at Toughest like Midwest last year in Chicago or whatever. Mm-hmm. And yeah, we rolled in hard. And then the best part was you're super warm after the race, and then you get to go to brunch in your onesie, and everyone else is cold but you and Joel because everyone was complaining about being cold. I'm like, we're fine. Yeah, we're nice and warm. It's amazing. So everyone bring your onesies, bring your unicorn onesies. I think Rhea's going to rock her onesie this year after the race. I think we're going to roll deep this year. It's going to be fun. Yeah.
Yeah, Wesley got me one last year that we were planning on wearing on the podium at one point, but I think we called it off last minute. I got a pink unicorn onesie that my daughter.
That's incredibly disappointing. I expect to see the unicorn this year.
I wore it after the awards bruncheon thing, but my daughter loves it. She asked me to put it on, and then she wants me to run around the house and like grab my tail.
Oh gosh.
So yeah. And I also sometimes I put her in the front like a kangaroo, and I try to walk with her. That's pretty funny too. She gets a kick out of that.
You try to hop with her too?
I do not. I think we would.
That's probably safe. That's probably safer. Good call.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. So that was definitely all Joel. So it's gonna be don't worry, we'll bring it back. Although what was it? Last race I decided, you said you were thinking about wearing the onesie on the podium. I was all about those Coach T Mud short shorts.
So are those the Navy Navy SEAL swim shorts, UDTs?
Oh no, those were just
no, they're like khaki, barely cover your butt, barely squeeze your quads in, shorty shorts.
Yeah. So like they look like, so what the Navy SEALs wear when they go through training is called UDTs, Underwater Demolition Team shorts, I guess. And they look the same, really short gray shorts that are like, they're fairly uncomfortable because I've worn them before.
Definitely not those, but
okay.
They are also slightly uncomfortable. And yeah. They're actually women's shorts. Even the guys, they're all women's shorts.
Oh, really?
Yeah. That's why they fit so well. Although they don't make my butt look as good as Kyle's coach, so I got to do some more squats. Yeah. The running doesn't help. I'm mad about that, but it's okay. That's off-season goals.
So what are your thoughts heading into the new venue? I mean, we're going to Atlanta, we're crossing the country. It's a whole new venue, a whole new approach. Like, what are your thoughts going into this one?
Yeah, I'm kind of bummed that I can't drive to this one, or at least I'm not going to.
I, on the other hand, am super excited because I live in Atlanta.
I know, just super pumped. We're going to go to Atlanta. We're going to go to the Claremont Lounge. It's going to get real gross up in there, although I heard they changed it. They, renovated the Claremont Lounge. I don't know. Have you been there?
I have not, but I have heard the same.
Yeah, don't go there. It's disgusting. My friend was from Atlanta. I took it there. Anyone listening, just look it up. You'll see. It's a pretty shady place. But I was taken there by a Atlanta native, and yeah, it's an experience I will never forget. It's burned into my memory. Anyways, off to World's Toughest Mudder. I'm excited. 4 years at Las Vegas was definitely good. I feel like last year is kind of you kind of lose some of that wonder and what's going to happen. I have no idea what to expect, and people keep asking me how many miles do you think you're going to run, and this and that. I'm I have no clue. I have no idea what the course is going to be like. I don't know if it's going to be super muddy.
Yeah.
I have no clue. And I'm kind of under the mindset where I can't control what it's going to be like, so I just kind of train and, whatever happens, happens. So, I'm stoked for a new venue. I'm not sure. Hopefully it's not too humid because I hate humidity, but, that might be something I have to deal with. But, yeah, and I know it's a fun
venue. I've raced a couple times there. It's a nice venue. It's freaking cold here. I mean, you're in Colorado, so... Yeah. You're fine. But this past week, the temperatures here in Atlanta have plummeted.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been in the 40, high 30s, low 40s in the morning. And today, it was in the low 50s. Water temps have dropped. There's definitely water available on course. There's a lake. So
and when she means water available, that means to get in and be freezing, not to drink.
Yeah.
Just for anyone who's getting optimistic, oh, we have water stations. No, she's not talking about that.
They're going to dunk us in the water throughout the night. And it's muddy, squishy, yucky clay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's the number one question whenever you talk to anybody about World's Toughest. Oh, my gosh, how many miles are you going for? And it's, I fully agree with you, and that's been my answer this year. It's I have no idea. This is completely different than Vegas. God only knows what they're going to throw at us.
Yeah. And Vegas, it's rocky, but it's all runnable. Mm-hmm. This, it's if it's super muddy, I remember this last year at Texas Toughest, I could barely walk through some of that mud. And through 8 hours, your hip flexors are just destroyed because every step is just brutal. But so, doing that for 24 hours, it might end up being fast at first, but it could really take a toll on everyone's, quads and hip flexors and things like that. So I don't know. I'm actually excited. It's supposed to snow this week in Colorado, so I think snow running is the closest I'm getting to mud running, like that aggressive of mud. So definitely going to go out for a little jog. But,
nice.
Yeah, I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be a fun race. 24 hours is always like fun and miserable at the same time.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know what to really expect. I also don't even really know who's going to be there exactly. So, we'll see how it goes. I'm excited.
Yeah. So if you had to guess, right? So I think we've all established based off of the number of variables that, anything can happen essentially. So if you had to guess, would you say average mileage goes up, down, stays the same? Let's say for the top of the field and like number of silver and brown bibs we're talking here.
I think it goes down. I honestly think it goes down.
I would agree with you.
Just the mud factor. I think that, like I said, it might be fast at first, but people are going to get wrecked real quickly if it's super muddy. And I mean, Vegas had like 800 feet of gain per lap, and I'm sure they could find that in Atlanta. I mean, I could be wrong, but
nothing is flat here.
Yeah, so
people think it is, and we don't have like we're not going to have that death march up the stairway that or ladder to hell that we had in Vegas. There's not long, really steep grades, but there's a lot of just everything rolls. Nothing is flat for a long time. I think personally, I agree with you. I think that mileage and everything is going to be decreased this year. I think people, truthfully, and just talking to people, I think people are really underestimating this venue and what it could possibly mean. Like, it's Atlanta, it's hot and humid, I don't have to worry about being cold. Well,
right.
Yeah, you do. And the biggest thing is, too, with the temperature cold, like in Vegas, when the sun came up, so did the heat, and it warmed up real quick. So when you were miserable and cold, you could warm back up. Here, we're not going to get that.
Right.
And I think people are going to be underprepared with gear. I think that while we don't have the obvious elevation, I think what you're talking about with your hip flexors and just the fatigue on the legs from the sludge that we're going to be going through, I think people are going to be hurting this year.
Oh, yeah, I agree. And, the other thing you mentioned, the humidity, if it is humid, the obstacles are going to be wet the whole night, regardless of if they have a water obstacle before that. So that's just going to make everything slippery. I agree with you. I think people are underestimating it. But, I mean, I think that happens every year, in some way, shape, or form. Mm-hmm. So, I just go into the race with a mindset, I can't control what I'm, running into, but, just prepare as best I can and then, take it for what it is and just do it live and enjoy it. Enjoy the suck. Yeah.
Concur with all that. I think overall mileage, the average is going to go down. I'm sure there'll always be outliers and stuff like that, but I think the mud, is going to play a big factor. Like we were talking about with Vegas, it was, I used to wear road shoes for Vegas, actually, because it was...
What?
It was actually... the whole thing was runnable. There was a couple of small parts where I was all right, there's one steep downhill back into that back section in a ravine. But other than that, I wore road shoes for the 2014 and 15, and then 16 too, I think. Yeah. So, yeah. And then what about, again, completely shots in the dark, complete guessing here.
Yeah.
Obstacle difficulty. I know you mentioned the humidity, but last year they put. Last year's grip obstacles were legit. There was 5 grip obstacles on course. Compare that to 2016 and 2015, which was 2 to 3.
Yep.
Do you think we still get around 5, or are we going to get a little bit less, a little bit more? Just gut instinct.
Yeah, so I think that we're probably – I don't know if you heard one of the interviews with Eli and Nolan or something, but they're going to set it up to where there might be loops where you can either pick you get shocked pathway or you do grip obstacle pathway.
I heard that. Did you listen to that one, Evan?
I did.
That was the world's toughest podcast.
Okay, That's what it was. Yeah, that was nuts to hear. I
will voluntarily get shocked all day, all night. Bring it on. Save me from those hellacious penalty loops that we had last year. I'll get zapped. I don't care.
I'm going to find you on course, Leah, to watch you do this, because I call BS. I say you get shocked once, and then you're like, I'll take the penalty next time.
But here's the thing. Getting shocked with a wetsuit is easy. Getting shocked with a wetsuit is no problem. I'll do it.
No big deal.
Yeah, I'm fine as long as, like, if I have a wetsuit and, like, a hood on, I'm like, whatever, screw it.
Mm-mm.
But
Operation is my favorite obstacle.
Oh, I love Operation.
Love it. Like, I have no problem with that. If you're going to give me an extra mile of a penalty loop like last year, I'll take my zapping.
I think that there's going to be, like, less than, like, last year, but, like, an option to be the same, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to tone it down to where just getting through it, you can choose to do less than last year, but if you want to do all the grip strength obstacles and, like, that's what you're good at, I think they'll, like, that'll be the upper limit. Because it sounded like they even thought last year was hard. And I think something weird was last year, like, nothing was open, and then things were easy, and then all of a sudden, like, they opened everything, and things were harder. Like, they added things to the obstacles, which I thought was kind of weird.
Because I noticed they didn't change it like they did in 16. In 16, like, as the night went on, things were easier.
Right.
Like, they added the walk the plank thing to Funky Monkey. They, made modifications that you're like, okay, night ops, this is easy. But last year, it was just harder and harder and harder, and it never let up.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think that, like, last year, that's why people were, like, cruising the first, like, 8 hours, and we're like, oh, I'm going to get 150 miles. Like, oh, damn.
Yeah, and then they added... There was so much water on the course last year. Like, once the night fell, it was ridiculous. And I swear they, like, all right, we opened the cliff, and we added this little bit, and it was like an extra, like, it felt like an extra mile. It felt a lot longer than than like the quarter mile or whatever they said it was.
Yeah,
so.
There was a few obstacles even last year that it wasn't Funky Monkey, but a few of them that actually the penalties were shorter than doing the obstacle because of the way they looped it to the cliff. I was like, it was kind of weird. And you didn't have to get wet. I remember one of them being like that. I was like, that's weird.
Yes, it was Kong. Because if you succeeded at Kong, then you got into the water and crossed over. But if you did not succeed in Kong, the penalty went up and around the mountain and bypassed that water.
Yeah,
and I remember on that, like, one of the first couple laps when it first opened, I slipped off and I was running with somebody. And they made it through, and we both came out around the same time, me and actually a little bit in front of him as he was coming through the water.
Yeah, I'm hoping and I think that they'll fix those things because that's kind of, like, ridiculous. But
yeah, I think so. I think that was echoed loud and clear.
Yeah.
Well, and they did fix it mid-event last year. Yeah. I remember we're like, oh, we'll take the penalty again. That was easier. And, like, we come around and we're like, this is not the correct path.
Yeah.
This is not what we had signed up for.
Yeah,
so.
For sure. Yeah, it was funny, actually. I remember the reason I found out is because Atkins, because I was doing the relay, so I was also in the pit and stuff, switching off. And Atkins actually failed it on purpose just to see what the penalty was like. And then he's like, yeah, it was way shorter, so I'm just going to, like, do that. But then they changed it. So I was like, of course, Ryan would be the person just to fail an obstacle for kicks and just to see what the penalty was like. I was like, this guy. Yeah. But anyways.
Cool. So before we get going, a lot of people like to talk about cold or sleep deprivation training kind of to prepare you for World's Toughest Mudder. Is there anything you do specifically, or do you just kind of suck it up on game day and deal with it?
Well, for my job, there's days where I have to wake up at 3:30 a.m., so I am in no shape during the week to do any sleep deprivation training. So I just let my normal life take care of that one. I do catch up on sleep on the weekends, but as far as cold, I think that's another reason I like being here in Colorado is I've actually just been trying to run without, like, a long sleeve or gloves and stuff when I'm just going on runs just to kind of get used to it. But I'm not, like, rolling in the snow or in the creek right now. Nothing too specific or anything like that. I think just being in the cold at all times, like in an environment, is good enough for me. Yeah. I'm not going to do any 3 a.m. Waterfall runs like John likes to do. Like, no, not happening.
Yeah, I concur with that. I think sleep deprivation training. I don't think if you've done it at any point in your life, I think a lot of that carries over, and then a little bit of resting up those 2 weeks leading up to the race, and then basically sucking it up and not being I won't use the word, but on game day is how you get through that.
Yeah.
And then this same thing with cold, just exposing yourself and training. I've been doing the same thing, basically running. I've been running in a t-shirt, basically regardless of the weather.
Oh, t-shirt? Wow. I'm just wearing straight Speedo. I mean, just happens now. That's the way to do it. You gotta be real committed.
Well, where I work, I would get in trouble for running around in a Speedo outside, so they don't like that.
Yeah, videos to come of me running in a Speedo. Maybe not, but yeah. And like, to be honest though, like with Toughest Mudder, like the last couple of years, if you've ran one or two of those and kind of like know what it feels like to run through the night, I mean, that's more than sufficient. I think that before, when there like was no night event to even like prepare yourself for and have no idea what you're getting yourself into, maybe like you can justify doing it then because you want to test out what it's like. But for most people, they've done a toughest, they've ran, starting at midnight, and I'm under the mindset where it's like these next 2 weeks I'm sleeping as much as possible. Heck yeah.
Yep, totally agree. And if you want to hear more about some of the other top athletes' opinions on that, in my book, Mud Run Guide's Ultra OCR Bible, that's one of the questions in there. You can go through, and I kind of stole part of Ryan's answer there, where when I interviewed Ryan Atkins, he said if you're training in all conditions at all times of the year, he's like, the cold will find you, and that's your cold training, and you can just kind of deal with it from that. So.
Yeah, nice. So. He might know what he's talking about, maybe.
Yeah,
maybe a little bit.
I don't know.
Speaking of, did you read that article that John Albin put out online from I think it was on Red Bull?
I did not, but I heard about it, and it's on my reading list. What was it about specifically?
It was just some of his like top tips, and the guy's either the best obstacle racer ever, or this arguably, or maybe the second. Like if you want to include ultra distance and TMX in there,
we can get into a huge argument about this. I don't know. I don't even know actually. Yeah.
Arguments for several people.
So, 5 times OCR 15K world champion, right? So that's not up for debate. That's a fact. But reading through some of his points, some of them are really good, and then other ones, like, I would not recommend them for other people. I mean, obviously, he knows what he's doing, and it's working for him clearly. But some of his things about, like, he's like, I never train with the bucket because I don't want to train with the bucket. I don't want to. I want to get through it as fast as possible. And it was, kind of not sports specificity type stuff. But I'd have to read through you can go through each point. But, if you haven't read that article, I think it is, for all our listeners, it is a good read. I would also caveat it with, right, like he's got a very big endurance base and obviously does a lot of sky running. Yeah. So I think you can't take all of his tips and just be like, well, I'm just going to do that because, he's the champion and we should be the same. And it's like, well, large endurance background, large, different person, different strengths and weaknesses. So
yeah. And I think that his sky running, it really like pulls him through a lot of those, like the bucket carry, things like that, because he's used to like going just up these massive climbs. I don't know if you've ever ran in the UK, like where he's running, it is treacherous. Like it's not runnable. It's just bouldering up these like mountains. And I went to Scotland this past year and just kind of ran like some of the areas that he was just racing in. It's brutal. Like it makes California mountains seem like cush, and like even some of the Colorado ones, like because you're not on a trail really. It's crazy. So I think that there's a lot of transition because of the terrain he runs on. I personally I respect the heck out of that guy. And just seeing his sky running background and what he's been able to do is like insane. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I wonder when you're at that level, like how much longer do you go for, right? I mean, I guess it's his 100% profession, right? So he has to keep doing it to making money, but at some point, I don't know. Yeah. When do you, like, let's say he keeps winning for the next decade, is he just going to keep riding that train all the way into the ground, or
Hey,
I just kind of wonder.
he'll probably just start running further. He'll be fine. But he only started running like competitively like 4 or 5 years ago. I don't know like what he did in high school or college, but I mean it's not like he was always like an endurance runner, which is pretty crazy. But I mean now it's kind of like he's just crushing it. He's crushing the Sky Running Series, OCR, and to be honest, like I don't think he gets enough respect in the States for what he does.
I would agree with you there. I think he's very underrated.
It's incredible. Like I don't know. Sometimes like going back to like the Spartan Championship, like I was getting mad at the commentating just because I felt like they were just disrespecting him the whole time, just because they don't know much about him. I mean, they were giving a lot of love to Ryan, which Ryan's a great athlete, but Albin just crushes it, and like the numbers don't lie. Like the races he's won and everything, it's amazing. So I
think part of that is his personality. He's not real boisterous. He's not real, showy like some of the top names are, and he's very humble with his accomplishments. And I think that it just kind of flies under the radar in a lot of people's minds around here.
Yeah, I mean he's amazing. It's crazy.
And I mean, I guess if you're like a Spartan like fanboy, right? Like that's like all essentially you'll see him once a year and then he goes back into the shadows.
Yeah,
but I mean,
that's true.
Because we're following him on Facebook or whatever, or seeing him at OCR World Championships. We're seeing him at other times, and we're like, oh, this guy's absolutely amazing. But if you're in that Spartan community and that's all you focus on, I think you just kind of overlook that.
Yeah. No, and to be honest, like he's the inspiration why I started just even trying to run ultras, because I was like, well, this guy is running like these running races and he's crushing it. So like, obviously there's something there. I'm not doing a Sky Running Series, but and winning it. But I mean, like, I think there's something to be said about his training style and how it kind of crosses over. So yeah. Yeah.
I mean, again, you can't argue much with the 5 times OCR world champion, right? So like,
insane.
And when he wins, he doesn't. It's not like, oh, he narrowly edged him out at the line. Like he usually wins with authority, and like beating someone like Ryan Atkins with authority is like, I mean that's another level, right? Like that's very impressive.
Yeah.
Because Ryan Atkins usually does that to other people.
Oh yeah, right. For sure. Yeah.
Nice. All right, let's. We're starting to get close to an hour, so let's start wrapping it up. We didn't get to talk about Merrell, so I know you're one of their athletes. So what are you wearing for World's Toughest?
As far as I'm just gonna be wearing, starting out, I think in the All Out Crush 2s. I think just because they're super light and because it's gonna be muddy, I don't think we're gonna need a lot of like support, like a thick cushion, because they do have their Agility Peak Flex, which I also have, but I don't know. I definitely bring those 2 shoes, for OCR races. So, yeah, and then that's pretty much like my main gear for Merrell. Obviously, be wearing like some of their long compression and compression pants, but yeah, obviously you need a wetsuit and all these other things that Merrell doesn't make. So,
yeah, I was specifically referring to shoes.
Yeah.
I agree. I like the All Out Crush. I got a new pair of the All Out Crush 2, different from the ones I had last year.
Okay.
And for some reason, the ones last year like rubbed my instep wrong, and these new ones don't. So I'm actually gonna wear. We're doing the same thing, All Out Crush 2s.
Yeah.
For World's Toughest Mudder. And last year I ran in the Trail Glove, which is
good,
very minimalist.
You're not joking. How the heck did you run that race in those?
I usually run in minimalist shoes, so it doesn't really bother me.
But it's so rocky. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I don't know. I just sucked it up. I was getting absolutely no problems like on my feet, blisters or anything like that. So I did enjoy that, but a little more cushioning would have been nice.
Yeah.
But,
you're crazy.
But I'm doing All Out Crush 2 this year. Nice. Anyway.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love Merrell. Definitely wanted to give them another shout out.
Yeah.
Thank them for all their support. Definitely a great part of the Tough Mudder community, and I know they're supporting the orphan tent this year. So if you're running without a pit crew and you want to get helped out from the orphan tent, definitely thank Merrell and thank the people helping out at the orphan tent.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they're awesome.
All right, before we get going, when we have 3 people on the podcast, we like to tell us something that people would be surprised to know about you. So we can start with whoever's ready.
Okay.
Leah, maybe?
Alrighty. Alright, well, as I'm sitting here stuffing my face, I am a complete sweet tooth candy addict.
Nice.
And I'm all about, fit life, healthy stuff, protein shakes, all that good stuff, but Sour Patch Kids are where it's at. So sour candies are my weakness.
Nice. Those are good.
Yep.
Big fan.
Kris, what do you got?
Okay, one's serious, one's not so serious. I got two things for you. First thing, I am actually a super introverted person, which most people don't expect. It's because, when I'm at home, I just, pretty much work and train, and, I'll see friends every once in a while. But, when I get into, the OCR community, I, love seeing people there. But for the most part, I'm, kind of in my own, world. That's kind of a more serious thing. Number two, I've thought a lot about this. I wish that we had, walk-up songs, how baseball batters have walk-up songs.
We talk about that all the time in my little circle. What would yours be?
If I had a walkout song, it would be Cruise by Florida Georgia Line, because that song always gets me going. And it's been, years that it's been out, but I'm whenever I'm running the trails, I'm just cruising. I love it. So if I have an intro song, it's Cruise by Florida Georgia Line. So there we go. I think about that way too much.
Maybe we need to incorporate that into the beginning of World's Toughest Mudder, for maybe the top 5, 10, whatever people in the series or something. I think that would be cool.
Take their song and call them out. Absolutely.
They do it at Spartan Race where they introduce them already, so it's they might as well just have the walkout song. That'd be sweet.
Yeah, that would be really sweet. Yeah. I like that.
So
cool. Well, for the introverted comment, I think a lot of endurance athletes are the same way, because I definitely feel the same way. A lot of the times I prefer to be by myself, and that's why I train for long. I've run for a long time by myself. When I go on business trips, I typically am not very social. So I'm pretty introverted too, actually, even though I have a podcast and I run my mouth a lot in public at OCR events.
No idea what you're talking about.
So the where I work, it's we usually classify ourselves as functioning introverts, right? So I'm introverted, but I can flip the switch and turn it on when I need to.
Yeah.
I just don't always like keeping that switch on. A lot of times I prefer to have it off if possible.
Come on, we need something new. We need something different.
And then for the cheat food, let's see. For post race, I like double stuffed Oreos. That's my go-to. And my go-to post-race World's Toughest meal was In-N-Out Burger. Ooh. And they moved the race, and now that ruined that, so I'm a little upset. I don't know what I'm going to eat after World's Toughest Mudder.
Waffle House, obviously.
Oh, my God. No.
Go to Waffle House with Matt B. Davis and get your dunks.
There you go.
Get your dunks
They're
on
so greasy. It's terrible.
Well, I'm not touching that place. But
I'm not a fan, and I live down here, and I can say we have lived here now for... not quite a year and a half, and we have still not eaten at Waffle House, not once.
Good for you. Yeah.
I'm totally fine with it.
When I did a Ragnar relay in Tennessee last year, Waffle House was the only thing open in the middle of the night, so that's where we kept stopping, and I hit the bathroom so many times in between my legs.
Yeah.
It was terrible. And I'm the type of person who, when I start doing endurance stuff, my system's shut off. I never have to go to the bathroom.
Me either.
Yeah.
Stupid.
But.
Oh, yeah, I had to stop.
Really?
For sure.
Really?
Yeah.
I've never
it kind of just depends. It depends on the race, but, man, I've had some where it's just you just got to go off the side. Man, it's not good. I remember last year, as the sun was coming up at, Toughest Midwest, I had to apologize, be guy that I'm running by, do not look. I'm going behind this tree. It was bad.
So the only time I've ever had to take a shit in the middle of a race or an endurance anything was the very first Toughest I did. So Toughest Atlanta, it was actually Toughest South. And it was because I ate a meal too close to the start time, because the midnight start time threw me off. So I still had food in my system, and we're coming around on, which would have been my lap 8, and it was right before Arctic Enema, and I was like, I swear if I don't find a porta potty in the next like a couple hundred feet, I'm gonna shit my pants. It's gonna be bad.
Well, at least you found.
And
good for you.
I ran the porta potty and I just decimated that thing. Right, no toilet paper, of course, and I was like,
no.
So I was in the porta potty for maybe a minute 20 seconds because I was staring at my watch because I was worried about missing the time cutoff.
Yeah.
Sprinted out, jumped in Arctic Enema, and kept on going. So
this is why girls have the advantage because they just don't poop ever. It's crazy.
I have never pooped in an endurance event, not once. I've done 3 24-hour.
See, never pooped ever.
Nope, never ever.
Yeah,
Nope.
most girls never have. I don't.
You're like Kim Jong-un, you're just you use all you're so efficient, you use everything, so you don't have to poop. It makes total sense.
That's Sour Patch
right?
life. I need to switch to Sour Patch Kids.
I'm telling you, Sour Patch Kids, where it's at. They will be in my pit.
Nice. Bring some of those.
Heck
All
yeah.
right, well we're gonna get going again. Before we go, final shout outs for sponsors, friends, anything like that. Kris, you're up first.
Oh yeah, just again, thanks to Merrell. Actually working with this new company, Arcanum Edge. They make a CBD like recovery oil and things like that. So they've been great to work with. But otherwise, yeah, I'm just excited to see everyone out on the course and stoked for WTM in 2 weeks. So thanks for having me, guys.
Cool, Leah, what do you got?
My main sponsors are Sport Kilt and Pickle Juice Sport, so they will both be with me in Atlanta at World's Toughest. And shout out to my racing crew, Alpha Racing. Same old people I've been racing with for about 5 years, and my family.
Nice.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Atomik Climbing Holds again. Again, me and Wesley are racing as Team Atomik. Thanks for all their support. Definitely some great products if you need to work on grip strength. Check those out. Not only do I use them on my ceiling for like rig grips, but I also use them in the weight room for like lat pull down, and then I also take nylon loops, essentially hook them around dumbbells, right? So I can do like bent over rows or farmer's carry using like the Atomik grips instead of the standard barbell grip, right? So really works on that grip strength. If you haven't checked out my book, Motor Run Guide's Ultra-OCR Bible, pick up a copy of that. Kris was one of those guys that I wanted to get in the book, but I already had a lot of other good people in there, and it was one of those things where like you have to make a decision, and like how long are you going to make this thing?
I wasn't ultra enough for it. It's okay. Maybe next year.
I'm glad we got you on I'm glad we got you on the podcast finally to talk to you about some of this stuff. So yeah, check that out, and then we will see everyone at World's Toughest Mudder in 2 weeks, and check out Jason Rulo's Tough Mudder Cliff Notes podcast if you haven't listened to that. Kind of some good last-minute prep and final tips to ease your fears. And like Kris said earlier, which I completely agree with, I would not worry about the things you can't control, which is pretty much like the majority of the things that are going to give you problems at World's Toughest.
Like pooping.
So, yeah. Worry about what you can control. Show up on event day ready to give it your all, and don't stop moving, because when you stop moving, you get cold, and when you get cold, it's hard to warm up again. So it's my words of wisdom there.
And apparently Leah says the sun's not coming up and warming you up.
Leah says there's no sun, and she doesn't poop.
And I don't poop?
Sweet.
Two good, important facts.
Good life.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right, we'll see you all in Atlanta.
Alrighty.
Peace.